Ladies and gents, welcome. My name is Wasmatic. Welcome to my channel. This is my first V-Rising guide, and it's a very basic introduction to the game mechanics that you will encounter when playing the game. So it's predominantly aimed at beginners, and we'll look at what are the survival elements to the game that you need to consider to maintain your vampire, and then what are the elements that you need to play through to be able to progress and unlock new skills and abilities. So here he is, Christopher Lee, and if you don't know who he is, shame on you, you should know. Go and Google Hammer House of Horror. I want to take that door out. Okay, so first things first, there are two elements that you need to let's get out of that. There are two elements that you need to consider when you're looking to survive in a game and stay alive. The first and most obvious one is your hit points or your health pool, fairly standard fare for any game. This is your health bar here. You can also see that I've chosen to have it above my character as well, and it will tell you here that you have 266 health of 266. Now, when you get into a fight, not only do you take damage down and that bar will start to decrease, you can also, in boss fights, your total health can drop as well. So you need to make sure that you're maintaining that. You can heal both total and your percentage health by looking at using things like the Blood Rose Brew here, or you can use a vampire ability like Blood Mend, which will heal you. So your health, very important, need to keep an eye on that. Now I was hoping that we would be able to do something in daytime, but as is often the case in this game, day and night are never around when you want them to be. So I'm going to talk to you about the there's a day and night mechanic that you need to consider for your survival, and I'm going to hang around and wait for night to pass so I can show you that. And the sun is up, and I just had to sit out the night. Okay, so we were talking about your hit points and your health, and how that's one element that you need to maintain, which is fairly standard fare in most sort of video games where you have a character that you're playing. One thing to note is that the day and night mechanic as a vampire, we're not a day walker like Blade, so sunlight burns and it can actually negatively impact your health. So I'm just going to show you quickly. If I step into the sun, you'll see that it starts to build up the sunlight, and eventually it's going to set me on fire, which will damage my health. I'll do that in a minute. You can get sun resistance brews, increases sun resistance by a certain amount for most of them are 1200 seconds. Now the thing is, this doesn't save you from being in the sun. From my experience, it just seems to prolong the time it takes for the sun to set you on fire. So there are elements in the game, like some boss fights, which are out in the open with no cover of shade, and you can end up not being able to do the boss fight. Now you can see there my health is taking an enormous hit from the sun. So you'll see that it's now gone down to 106 of 266. But if you look closely here, you'll see that the black bar bit, my health will only come back to there unless I heal up. And I can heal up either using one of these potions, or I can use the vampire ability which draws on blood. Which brings me on to the next element of survival in the game, and that is maintaining your blood pool. So you have your health. Let's heal up. Glug, glug, glug. You have your health, or whichever you need to maintain. If your health drops to 0, you will die as a vampire, and dying means that you need to respawn at any one of a number of different locations. It can be a bed which you have built somewhere. Now I have the stone bed in my castle here, which I will respawn in that stone bed, but I will drop everything that I'm carrying in my inventory, not including these equipped weapons. So keep all of your equipped armor and gear, but you will drop any resources you've gathered, any rare items, etc, etc. So anything that's not slotted in this 1 to 9, you will lose, and you'll have to go back and pick it up. You can respawn here, or you can respawn there are teleport points throughout the game where you can respawn. So that's your health. Sun is bad, damage is bad, bosses hurt, and some bosses you can't fight unless it's nighttime because they're out in the open, so they'll be in an open space like this. So that brings us on to the blood pool. Equally, You have a pool of blood that you need to maintain as a vampire. You need to drink blood to survive. So this is the second survival element in the game, and that is that you have to keep this health pool topped up. It's not just a survival element in the game, though. There is also an opportunity to use the blood pool for a buff to your character. Now, I actually have a reasonably good buff at the moment. You drink blood from somebody, it will fill up. I have a buff here, which is a 51% blood type, and that will give me an 8% to 15% movement speed, and it will also give me, you see the sun burning me there, need to move, and it will also give me 10% to 20% chance critical strike on weapon attacks. Now that's because I've got a blood type of the rogue, you can see in the top right there. There are different blood types of different percentage quality, and they all give you very different buffs. My personal favourite is Life Leech. Now I can't remember which character you get that from, I think it's the Thugs. But Life Leech, I find, is really useful when you're fighting a boss. So, how do we top up our blood pool? Well, I'm very glad you asked, because we're going to go and eat somebody. So you can see on mouse over here, that's a rogue blood type, and it's 8%. I need to feed on one of them. What's he on? He's 8% as well. What's that guy? He's 8% as well, so these are all 8%ers. And you can see my blood pool at the moment is quite low. I don't have an option to top up with another 50, but I'm going to feed on him at 8%. So you watch this blood pool. I'm taking damage while I do it. Now the blood pool's filled up. I hate those things. So I no longer have that 50% buff, but at some point you have to trade. The buff from the blood type that you have. So if you find a really good blood type of like 60%, 70%, 80%, you're going to get a lot of buffs from it. But eventually that blood pool is going to diminish to the point where you need to replace it. And it's very difficult to find a really good blood type, certainly in the areas that I've been playing in, that will match the buff. So now I've had to trade a 50% rogue blood type with a blood type of 8%, which doesn't give me the movement speed buff, but it still gives me the 10-20% chance to critical strike on my weapon attacks. So the two survival elements in the game, your health pool, and using the day-night cycle to make sure that your health stays in tip-top condition, that you don't die. And then secondly is your blood pool and making sure that that's topped up, and also using that to give your character a buff. So now, if I can find my home, I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk to you about how to do the progression and the unlocks in the game. Okay, we're back at the castle, and something fortuitous happened while I was just running back to the castle. Is that we have a blood moon, which occurs, I think, once every so many days. I can't remember how many days. But the blood moon boosts the effects of your current blood type by 20% and increases movement speed by 10%. So we've now got a 20% and 10% increase on that 10 to 20% already. So blood moons are just, they happen. I can't remember the interval. I'm sure somebody else will tell me in the comments below. So let's talk about progression and unlocks. So there's a number of different types of unlocks that you need to work towards. The unlocks, so progression in the game is gated. It really is gated and hidden behind these unlocks. You cannot progress unless you get your gear level up. And getting your gear level up is dependent upon getting very specific unlocks. So what are they? You need to unlock skills. Here, these are your spells. You've got Blood, Unholy, Illusion, Chaos and Frost, and then also Vampire Powers, which are more sort of utility. So you've got a heal, you've got a wolf form, bear form, seduction, where you can get servants. We'll talk about that in a minute. Then you have weapon skills. So you unlock weapon skills as you level your weapons. And as you push that gear score up, by increasing the quality of your weapons, you will also increase your ability to kill the next boss. So very early in the game you're going to get this. It's called a blood altar. I suggest you build this as soon as you get it, and this is, for the most part of the game, this will be the thing that you use to progress and unlock weapons, skills and items and so. So this is your holy grail. Now when you start off in the game you will have this blood altar. You build it and this will give you bosses that you need to kill. Starts off with the Alpha Wolf, pretty easy. As you'd imagine, they get harder and harder the more you progress through the game. But what happens is when you kill one of these bosses, it will unlock one of these skills. So that's Aftershock. So that is Unholy Chaos, sorry. So there, I didn't start the game with these skills. I unlocked that and that and that from killing the bosses. They also unlock items. So this guy unlocked like a storage container. Rufus the Foreman unlocked the woodworking bench for me, which enabled me to make the fishing pole, the hunter's crossbow, the sculptured wood, which I haven't used yet, and the painting frame. So now the really interesting thing about the blood altar is that you can track. So if you just click on that, and you'll see I'll get a blood scent, and that will tell me that that's the direction of my prey. So I think that pops every 15 seconds or so, and that's how you track the bosses. But it will tell you here, so let's see where I am now. It will tell you here that what your gear score is that you need to be at to be in with a chance of killing them. Now I have killed a few of these when I've been about 4 or 5 gear score lower. This is level 39 now. I would imagine that I probably would have no problem killing Vincent the Frostbringer. Christina the Sun Priestess might be a bit of a problem. The bosses are difficult. They get harder and harder, and you need to think very carefully about the build that you're using and the weapons that you're using for each boss type. But that said, those are the progression elements. Now, once you've unlocked, let's take a very simple example. So in the early game, I killed... Okay, let's use this. The woodworking bench. The woodworking bench I unlocked, and then I have to build it. And once I've built the woodworking bench, where are you? Here you are. I can then use this to craft crossbows, and now I can craft the iron crossbow. But here's the real stickler. To be able to gather iron, I need to have unlocked the ability to gather iron, and for that, you start off with the reinforced bone mace, and that means you can gather stone. Then you move through to gathering copper, then you can make the copper mace, and that can gather gems and whatnot. And then you move through to the merciless copper mace. It's only when you get the merciless copper mace that you can gather iron. So that brings me on to one of the other elements of unlock that aren't related to the blood altar and killing bosses. These killing of the bosses will give you the benches and the crafting tables and refining tables that you need to be able to make things without giving too much away. So those are those unlocks. There is another element to the unlocks. So for example, we just talked about the merciless copper mace. Here it is. To gather iron, you can only gather iron when you get this merciless copper mace, and those come from the research desk. So the research desk is a mechanism by which you collect paper, and you can actually gather the paper yourself, or you can use a servant to gather it for you, and I'll touch upon servants in a different video. So you can see there, you can go to that location, you can gather paper. So you gather enough paper, it actually needs 50, and then you can click on this button to discover. Now I actually have quite a bit of paper stacked away here, and there's 83. I need 50 to research. I'm not going to do that now because I have another video where I need to use it. But you can see there that I've actually unlocked the merciless copper mace to gather iron from the research desk. Now I actually have one ready there to unlock because I have the book. So that brings me on to what I was just about to say, was also in the process of questing, gathering, killing, feeding. You will occasionally see these books as a loot drop, and those books will give you the recipe. So rather than having to gather paper and click discover there, you can also gather the book. So that book is the Ember Chain, which is this Ember Chain here. Now that water well I already have, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the water well. And then also the Merciless Night Stalker leggings, I already have there. I actually don't have the Merciless Night Stalker chest piece, which is bugging me. I can't seem to upgrade this from a very basic low level. So to gather iron, it's not just killing bosses. You also have the research desk, which you will need to use to unlock the recipes. And these recipes are either recipes that you will use on a crafting table, or also there will be recipes that go into building. And it could be anything from castle walls to exterior gardens, statues, decorative lights, etc., etc. So to be able to progress and kill the bosses at a higher level, you absolutely have to get involved in crafting in this game. So, and this is also true of unlocking refinement items. So you press B and you can go into the build guide and go into production. You can see we have crafting, refinement. You start off with only a handful of these refining devices, and you unlock these by progressing through the game and killing bosses. So, in a nutshell, that's how you progress, that's how you unlock, and that's how you survive in the game. You've got to think about your hit points and your blood pool, and use your blood pool to your benefit when you're fighting bosses. Then you need to think about progressing, using this blood altar, killing bosses to get unlocks for skills, for vampire powers, and also unlocking the ability to build more and more structures, like the tannery there, the devourer there, the tomb. These are all elements that will do things for you. And then finally, as you level up the actual equipment, you will see, particularly for weapons, you will see you have a primary attack, and then you unlock 2 other abilities. So for axes, for example, I have frenzy, which is an ability like that, and then for swords I have a spinning attack. You don't unlock those until you've unlocked the higher level weapons. So I'm now waiting to make an iron sword, for example, but I know that I need to kill a boss before I can do that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the guide to survival, progression and unlocks in the game. I tried to keep it as spoiler free as possible, not talked about specific bosses or builds or guides on how to kill the bosses, although that's coming. So, thank you very much for watching. Chances are the majority of you watching aren't subscribed, so if you want to support my ability to make more videos like this, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it, and you can have a big hug when I see you, if ever. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.